New footage just came out that seems to show one of Foolio's people finally catching up with Yungeen. Ever since Foolio's death, his crew has been threatening to get revenge.
Yeah, and everybody died first though.
Now it looks like they finally did, and word is ATK already struck back.
A lot of what's the Yungeen Ace,
his boys?
Yeah, been dropping like 6, 7.
I've got the full story, let's break it down. Blood in the streets. New footage just dropped online showing a violent attack caught on camera, and fans are convinced it's one of Foolio's affiliates finally getting revenge. But before we dive into that footage, we need to go back and understand how all of this started. Picture this. It's May 2017 in Jacksonville, Florida, city already known for high crime and gang activity. Tension was already high, but what happened next would start a war that still hasn't ended. Zion Malik Brown, an 18-year-old linked to KTA, was killed during a home invasion on Jacksonville's west side. This wasn't just another shooting. Zion was the cousin of Charles Andrew Jonesy, better known to the world as Foolio. That murder that was the spark that set everything off. In the streets, blood calls for blood. And when someone takes a family member, especially in the hood where loyalty means everything, retaliation is guaranteed. And it didn't take long. Fast forward to June 2018, and Jacksonville saw one of its most brutal revenge shootings. Town Center triple homicide. Trevon Bullard, Royale Devin Smith Jr. and Jacoby Groover were all connected to ATK, shot and killed in what police believed was payback for Zion's death. But here's where it gets really personal. Trevon Bullard wasn't just another member of ATK. He was the younger brother of Kenyatta Bullard, better known as Yungeen, the face of ATK. Now imagine being Yungeen at that time. You're a young rapper trying to make it out of the streets, and suddenly your little brother is murdered in a gang retaliation. That kind of loss, that kind of pain, it changes a person forever.
It's so crazy because I be putting the blame on me. You know, I don't let it
survivor's remorse.
You know what I'm saying? And it's just like, cause I insisted, like, look, bro, let's go out and eat. Like, it's your birthday.
Yeah.
It's my best friend's birthday. I'm like, it's your birthday, man. Let's just go out and eat.
But this shooting wasn't just about taking lives, it was about sending a message. In gang culture, how you respond to disrespect can determine whether you survive or get remembered in a mural. When Yungeen survived the shooting that killed his brother, he had a choice: disappear from the streets or stand up and ride for his fallen homies. He chose to stand up, and that decision, it took the beef to a whole new level nobody could have predicted. ATK, short for Ace's Top Killers, became the name tied to Yungeen and his crew. KTA, meaning Kill Them All, was Foolio's set. But these weren't just rap cliques. They were real street organizations with real territory, real shooters, and real bodies behind their names. The music was just the soundtrack to the violence happening in the streets. What made things even more dangerous was how the beef started spreading beyond just ATK and KTA. Other gangs in Jacksonville started picking sides, creating a tangled web of alliances and enemies. It turned the whole city into a war zone. 6-block part of KTA and 1,200, which later aligned with ATK, were just a few of the crews caught up in it. Jacksonville became a chessboard. One wrong move could cost you your life. As 2018 turned into 2019, the bloodshed got worse. In January 2019, Willie Addison, aka Boscoon, a known ATK member, was shot and killed outside Paradise Gentlemen's Club. But KTA wasn't finished. That same month, Charles Quinton McCormack Jr., aka Lil Buke, a member of KTA, was also killed. Then came one of the most heartbreaking moments. In February 2019, Adrian Dinar Gaynor Jr., better known as Bibby, was murdered. He wasn't just another name. He was Foolio's little brother, only 16 years old. That's somebody's baby brother. Should have been worried about homework or girls, not guns and revenge. Bibby's death hit Foolio just as hard as Trayvon's hit Yungeen. Now both leaders, Foolio and Ache, had lost their little brothers to this war in the streets. Both were hurting. Both were angry, and instead of cooling things down, the pain made the hatred run even deeper. Then came the music. In 2028, TK-affiliated rappers dropped a song called Who I Smoke, and it would become one of the most controversial drill tracks ever made. This wasn't just a diss record, it named specific dead KTA members, mocked them, turned their deaths into a viral hook that racked up millions of views on YouTube. It wasn't rap beef anymore. It was psychological warfare set to a beat. Digital warfare fueled by lyrics lyrics, egos and rising body count. Both ATK and KTA had suffered major losses. Yungeen Ace lost his brother Trayvon, and Foolio lost his brother Bibby. The streets of Jacksonville were soaked in blood, but instead of these tragedies bringing any kind of peace, they only made the situation worse. It was like pouring fuel on a fire that was already out of control. The year 2020 marked a major turning point in this beef, not just because the violence continued but because the war started playing out on a global stage thanks to social media and music. Back in the day, gang beef stayed local. Maybe word spread through the streets, maybe a local news station picked it up, but for the most part these conflicts stayed in the neighborhood. Now with Instagram, Twitter, YouTube and TikTok, every diss, every threat, every insult could go viral in minutes. And this is where things really got wild. ATK-affiliated rappers dropped a song called Who I Smoke, one of the most disrespectful and controversial drill songs ever made. Now I want you to understand something. This wasn't just a typical diss track. They were naming real people who had been killed. They turned their deaths into entertainment and broadcast it to millions of people around the world. The song was so cold, so calculated in how it mocked the dead, it shocked even people used to hearing violent rap lyrics. They didn't just diss their enemies, they profited off their deaths while making their families relive the pain. It wasn't just about gang beef anymore, it was psychological warfare and a way to build fame off of bloodshed. Then came the music video. The Who I Smoke video was like a trophy case. It referenced at least 3 people who had been killed, and every frame sent one clear message: we'll kill you, we'll make money off your death, and we'll dance on your grave for the world to see. Of course KTA wasn't going to let that slide. Foolio fired back with tracks like When I See You, which only made things worse. Even Jacksonville Sheriff Mike Williams spoke out saying social media had become the gang graffiti of the 1980s, a new kind of battleground where lyrics and posts replaced spray paint. But while all this played out online, the real violence never stopped. In fact, it was getting worse. The music and social media beef was like throwing gasoline on a fire. Every time one side dropped a new song, every time someone posted something disrespectful, it just created more pressure to retaliate in the streets. Let me put it in perspective. This wasn't just about territory or money anymore, all that still mattered. This was now about respect, reputation, and proving who was the most dangerous. In Jacksonville, this beef wasn't just music anymore, it had become deadly. When you put a bounty on someone's head through a rap song that gets millions of views, when you disrespect your dead enemies right in front of their families in social media, you're creating a situation where violence feels unavoidable. And yes, the authorities were watching. Law enforcement started closely monitoring both crews, but catching gang members in the act isn't easy. These aren't dumb guys, they know how to move in silence, how to communicate without leaving evidence, and how to send deadly messages while keeping their hands clean. As the years passed, 2021, 2022 and into 2023, the violence kept going. More names were added to the list. Lawrence Davis in 2018, Adrian McKenzie in 2023, Rico Osama, Julian House in 2023. Even though their gang ties weren't always confirmed, one thing was clear: Jacksonville had turned into a war zone. Young black men were dying at an alarming rate. What made it even more tragic was how this war was affecting the entire community. Innocent people were getting hit in the crossfire. Families lived in fear. Neighborhoods were held hostage by the violence. This wasn't just a gang issue anymore, it had become a community crisis. Meanwhile, both Yungeen Ace and Foolio were growing their music careers off the same violence. Their biggest songs, the ones that mentioned the beef, the ones that named names and talked about bodies, they were literally making money off a conflict that was tearing apart their own city. It created a twisted situation where peace was actually bad for business. And then came social media, making things even worse. Every Instagram post, every tweet, every Facebook status, it all got picked apart for hidden messages, sneak disses or threats. Just wearing certain colors in the wrong neighborhood could get someone killed. A single lyric that mentioned a dead rival that could lead to another shooting. The internet had turned every post, every photo, every song into a possible spark for violence. Social media and rap music weren't just storytelling tools anymore, they became fuel. Both sides, SAC and KTA, were constantly dropping videos, lyrics and lives that taunted rivals and sometimes even showed off real crimes. And yes, law enforcement was watching, cops were taking screenshots, collecting videos and slowly building cases, but proving that a lyric was a confession or that a song was actually a threat that was almost impossible in court. By 2023 this beef wasn't just a local problem anymore, it had gone national. Hip-hop blogs were covering every update. YouTube channels were breaking down the lyrics frame by frame. Even true crime podcasts were getting in on it, analyzing the deaths like episodes in a TV show. What started as a deadly street war in Jacksonville had become entertainment for millions of people who had never even been there. People were treating real violence like it was a series to binge. But while fans watched for drama, real lives were being destroyed. Real mothers were burying their sons. Real children were growing up without fathers. And whole neighborhoods were being torn apart by violence that just wouldn't stop. Then it all came to a head with Foolio's death. The murder that shocked hip-hop. It was June 23, 2024, a day that would change everything. Foolio was celebrating his 26th birthday, and like a lot of young people he was sharing his whole night on social media, not knowing it would be his last.
Pool party start the day at 5, 6 o'clock. If you already got the address, pull up, man. You got the address, pull up. If you need the address, DM me right now. The pool party start at 5, 6 o'clock.
For someone like Foolio, posting your location online was like painting a target on your back. He had survived multiple attempts on his life and everyone in the streets knew it wanted him dead. Still Foolio kept living his life. He had over 1 million followers on Instagram and nearly 1 million monthly listeners on Spotify. His music was reaching fans around the world. So on his 26th birthday he had every reason to celebrate. But the truth is, the streets don't respect success. They don't respect birthdays. And they definitely don't respect people who think they're untouchable. Foolio started his celebration in Jacksonville but later moved to Tampa, a 3.5-hour drive south. He had planned a pool party and an after-party at an Airbnb, but police shut it down, so Foolio and his crew moved the party to a home 2 suites by Hilton near the University of South Florida. That's when things took a dark turn. According to court documents, 5 suspects had been tracking Foolio the entire night, following him all the way from Jacksonville to Tampa. This wasn't some random shooting. This was a planned execution. The suspects, Sean Gathright, Rashad Murphy, Dave Murphy, Isaiah Chance and Elisa Andrews, used surveillance cameras, social media, and phone data to follow Foolio's every move. They tracked him to strip clubs. They watched his posts, and they waited for the right time to strike. That moment came at 4:40 a.m. June 23, 2024. Surveillance footage showed 3 masked gunmen armed with semi-automatic rifles and a handgun ambushing Foolio and his group in the hotel parking lot. They opened fire on 2 cars. Foolio was in the front passenger seat of one. He was hit multiple times and died at the scene. 3 others were injured but they survived. The attack was quick, brutal and calculated. This wasn't some sloppy street shooting. These were professional killers and they had planned every move. Tampa Police Chief Lee Burkle later said the suspects, believed to be part of ATK and 1200, had traveled to Tampa with one goal: to kill Foolio. The investigation that followed was huge. Tampa Police, the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office, the FBI, ADF and local prosecutors all worked together to build the case. They used hotel and nightclub surveillance footage, phone records, license plate reader data, witness statements, and one of the biggest pieces of evidence, a text message from Rashad Murphy sent just after the killing where he bragged about what they had done. This wasn't just revenge. These guys were proud of the murder. The arrests started soon after. On July 27, 2024, Sean Gathright, Isaiah Chance and Elisa Andrews were arrested in Jacksonville. Rashad Murphy was soon caught after that. Rashad Murphy was arrested on July 30, 2024 after a standoff with police. The last suspect, Davian Murphy, stayed on the run until January 2025 when he was finally captured. Now all 5 suspects face serious charges, including first-degree premeditated murder with a firearm, conspiracy to commit first-degree murder with a firearm. But things got even more serious when the state of Florida announced that it would seek the death penalty for 3 of the suspects: Isaiah Chance, Sean Gathright and Rashad Murphy. Court documents revealed just how well-planned this hit really was. The group tracked Foolio's movements, coordinated their timing and had assigned roles. 3 shooters to lookouts. Elisa Andrews, though she didn't pull the trigger, allegedly provided her phone for group communication, making her a key part of the plan. But here's the most heartbreaking part. Foolio's death didn't stop the violence. It only made things worse. On January 24, 2025, just 7 months after Foolio was killed, a 7-year-old boy named Brian Allen was shot and killed in crossfire. He had nothing to do with gangs, just a child caught in the middle. Police arrested Keith Fields, Donnell Lenz, Keith Johnson and Zaro Sykes, all tied to 6 Block, were allegedly aiming for someone connected to ATK, but instead a little boy lost his life. That's what this beef has come to: killing children. The motive: a diss track called 6 Ways to Die, a song that mocked 6 Block, referenced dead members and stirred the pot even more. Just another example of how music is still fueling this deadly cycle of revenge. Foolio's murder didn't just shake up the streets, it had a huge impact on Jacksonville and the entire hip-hop community. Professor Andrew Carwell from Florida State College at Jacksonville wrote an opinion piece expressing his shock after learning that one of his top students, Sean Gathright, had been arrested for the murder. He talked about the bigger issue: how so many young lives are being lost or ruined by this ongoing violence, and how too many families are being destroyed over street beefs, rap lyrics and misguided loyalty.
The ongoing fight between these two groups spilled over into Tampa last month. Let me be clear, the feud stops here.
Law enforcement is finally taking decisive action.
All 5 of these defendants are facing life in the Florida State Prison, even the ones who didn't pull the trigger. In Florida, if you participate in the planning of a murder, you can be held accountable for the person's death. And that is what we intend to do here. There were 3 people who pulled the trigger. You saw it on the video. 5 people, though, are charged with murder. The level of planning and coordination between these 5 defendants was truly alarming.
There's been a lot of talk online about whether Yungeen Ace had something to do with Foolio's murder. Some viral posts even claimed that Ace paid $10,000 to have Foolio killed. That rumor blew up and shaped what a lot of people believe. But as of June 19, 2025, Yungeen Ace has not been charged with anything related to Foolio's death. In fact, Ace went on Instagram Live and denied having anything to do with it. He said, "That's sad. I ain't gonna lie bro. Leave the streets alone playa. I don't condone stuff like that." He even claimed that he and Foolio were on good terms before the murder, which goes against the story that he ordered the hit. The trials for Foolio's alleged killers are set to start in late 2025 and early 2026. So far, none of the suspects have been given bond. Judges said they're too dangerous to be released. And with the state pushing for the death penalty, it's clear they're treating this case very seriously. But here's the saddest part: none of this had to happen. Foolio was just 26 years old when he was killed. He had a growing music career, a massive fan base, and was making real money doing what he loved. Instead of celebrating his birthday with friends and family, he was shot to death in a hotel parking lot, all because of a beef that started when he was just a teenager. This cycle of violence has taken a massive toll. At least 10 people have been killed in this feud, maybe more. Brothers have lost brother, mothers have buried their sons, and a whole community now lives in fear because young men can't let go of old grudges. The story of ATK versus KTA isn't just about gangs or rap beef. It's about poverty, lack of opportunity, and a culture that often glorifies violence. It's about how social media and drill rap can turn a local problem into global entertainment while real people suffer and real people die. That brings us to the end of the story. If you want to watch more deep dives like this, click on one of the videos on your screen. Thanks for watching.